Welcome in, Bills fans, to another edition of the Triple Coverage Podcast. I am Lance Nelson, president of Built in Buffalo. To my left, Scott Casson. To my right, Benjamin Shoop. Sup, Shoop?
Nothing much. Ready to get into a little bit of OTAs. You got to see some players in their uniforms on the field, and Josh Allen throwing some footballs to the new guys, and just excited time where you kind of start getting a little bit of football. Obviously, then there'll be a little bit more of a down period, and then right back into it. But still, it's always good to just kind of see who's looking good, who's looking different when it comes to what they did over the offseason here, and yeah, it's an exciting time.
Mr. Casson, how are we?
I'm doing well. The Yankees just swept a baseball team that plays in New York, or that plays in Los Angeles. It's not important which one. And yeah, we got to see some of the guys running around on the field. Josh Allen looked great in shorts as ever. Excited to talk about it.
Yeah, let's get into that then. OTAs have started, like we mentioned, and wrapped up today. And there's going to be another period next week where the media is going to have availability, which is nice because we get a little view into what's going on there. So far, there's been a couple cool videos. I don't think there's been anything like great that we've seen on a video, but it's just been nice to see the guys out on the field again. One guy we haven't seen is James Cook. So let's just jump right into that. And Scott, you can maybe comment on just excitement for OTAs to start, and then Mr. James Cook not being in attendance.
Yeah, I don't think anybody thought that James Cook was going to be here for this. It's pretty standard when a guy is fighting for a new contract. These are kind of the things you don't show up to. I don't think it's any reason for concern yet. Like, he's been here for 3 years. He knows the offense. It's the same offensive coordinator. It's for the most part all of the same guys as far as he's concerned. So it's not like he's really missing out on anything other than the fact you'd like for him to be there. I believe they have mandatory mini camp. What's that, coming up in 2 weeks? If he's not there then, maybe you start to be like, okay, like, you're supposed to be here. You should be here. But I don't think it's any reason for concern just yet. And as we've all seen on social media this week, there's definitely worse things he could be out there doing if he's not at camp.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like Scott said, I don't know if anybody expected him or is shocked at least by him not being there. Even if you did maybe expect him to be there, you're not necessarily shocked that he's not. But yeah, I mean, every team has a few guys that aren't there. We could be the Bengals that don't even have your first round pick there. You could be the Patriots, who, as Scott kind of alluded to there, had their star wide receiver doing some things on a boat there, which we always know in the NFL. As soon as you're on a boat, things usually don't go that well for your team. But yeah, it's not really too shocking. McDermott, with his comments, didn't really seem like shocked either. Just kind of said, he'll be there when he's there, and he'll be ready for us when he's ready. So yeah, it's not something I think anybody's super concerned about. Now, if he's obviously not there for the mandatory, that's when it starts to get like, okay, is this going to become an issue that goes into training camp and goes into the season? We'll see. I don't think it will, though. I think he'll be there, and yeah, I think it won't be something that will be a major news in 2 weeks when that mandatory minicamp does start. But yeah, I mean, OTAs in general started. I think everybody else was there besides Cook. Like I said, we get to see some of the new guys out there. Some excitement there with the rookies as well. So just always good to see the guys in the red, white, and blue there over at One Bills Drive.
Yeah. So first mini camp or OTA was 27th through the 29th of May, and then June 2nd and 3rd will be another iteration with June 5th added on after June 4th off, and then the mandatory camp starts June 10th through the 12th. So on June 10th, if he's not there, we'll be a little bit more have a little bit more of an opinion right now. I think Deion Dawkins said it well. This is voluntary. Roy is mentioning the comments that Diggs didn't show up, but Diggs doesn't attend OTAs, and we saw what he was out doing this past week as well instead of OTAs. And I think
the only thing I want to mention, honestly,
the only thing I want to mention about Diggs is he probably does have a little bit of influence on how James Cook might be handling his business. He may be taking a page, but look, I'm all for guys going through their process throughout the off season. So everyone has their own process and how they want to do things to be ready for the season. As long as he's ready for the season and shows up when it's mandatory, that's all we care. I think everyone has said that here, and also like Deion Dawkins in the media as well, when they were asked about it, said the same thing. That right now, everyone's doing their part to be ready for the season. And when you're supposed to be here, just be here and we'll roll with you. And that's all that matters. So, yeah, not a huge issue for me, although it will be, just intriguing to see what happens when we get to June 10th. That's really the main point here. The Bills were selected for Hard Knocks. Guys, give your thoughts. Ben, we'll start with you on the Bills selection for Hard Knocks. Any real issue with it, or do you think it's going to be fun, or any other, things you want to mention about Hard Knocks?
Yeah, it's kind of a mixed bag for me because, like, it's not, at the end of the day, it's not a huge deal because it's just training camp and it doesn't go into the season. It becomes a distraction for a couple players, but at the end of the day, if they can't handle the distraction of Hard Knocks, it's, you're going to have a hard time in the NFL anyways when it comes to the real games with all the media around. And it sounds like maybe, I know at first maybe it was like, oh, maybe the Bills kind of said, oh, they want to be in it. Now it seems like that they didn't ask, but they said it's still something that's a compliment to them to be in it. So I think it'll be fun, definitely, as a fan, from a fan's perspective. From a fan's perspective, you get that behind the scenes look. You kind of get to see the players' personalities more. I mean, I know people were even talking about how when you get Tre White and Keon Coleman in this setting where you might get some good clips there. You'll see Josh Allen a little bit more in depth when it comes to behind the scenes. Even guys like Sean McDermott as well, like a coach that some people don't really like, and you've seen him kind of the past few years start to open up a little bit more when it comes to just being looser. So maybe you see some stuff there. But
the fans are going to want to try to be on Hard Knocks as well. They're going to try to, probably from a fan, you're mentioning the fans' perspective, right? Like maybe trying to get to camp a little bit and getting on. Camp's going to be pretty nuts this year, I think.
Yeah. Between that and the Hallmark movie, our Bills fans going to damn near have an IMDb page after this.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a fun season, I think, for Bills fans to be able to see all that, and especially since it's the last year in the stadium, and you probably get some behind the scenes stuff with that as well. So it's going to be a lot of that behind the scenes when it comes to whether it's the Bills as the team or the organization, just everything in general. It's going to be a fun thing to watch, and with Hard Knocks, it's going to be awesome, I think, just to kind of see even how certain players handle something like this, handle the competitive nature being under more of a camera there than it would be in general. It's already going to be, you got the fans watch, you got the coaches watching, but now it's like you're going to be going onto a national scale where other teams or other people and fans that might not care about the Bills, but like Hard Knocks year after year, they're going to be interested in how the Bills are and when it comes to this. So I think it's going to be fun. Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, I probably would have wished they weren't, just in general, just because I'm not a huge fan of teams being on there, because I do think it can be a little bit of distraction. But if there's any team that can minimize those distractions, I think it is Sean McDermott and the Bills there. So yeah, it'll be fun at the end of the day, especially for the fans.
Yeah, I think it's cool and it's not cool. It's cool because you're going to get all of the access. You're going to get to see every bit of training camp, even more so than we already see through, what the Bills post. And it's not cool because it can be a distraction. Most teams don't want to do it, and there's a reason for that. But if there was a team that maybe won't be as distracted, it is a team like the Bills. Most of the time, Hard Knocks is a team that's bad, or a team that's on the rise where, there are a lot of distractions. But the Bills are a veteran-led team, starting from McDermott, who's been there years. Josh has been there years. Most of the core guys have been there for a good number of years. So hopefully they're able to just, keep their heads down, work through it. I will say there'll be some electric content. And like you mentioned, Keon, Deion, Tre White, Max Harrison. Like there's going to be a lot of fun things that come out of it. And then it's also fun to, they make you fall in love with the 89th guy on the roster. He really looks like he's going to make the team until, it gets down to final cut. So it'll be fun to see what UDFAs they kind of make you fall in love with. But it'll be fun to watch. Hopefully it's not too much of a distraction, though.
I'm not worried about the distraction part whatsoever, really. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see the different personalities and characters, from Tre White to Keon Coleman to Deion Dawkins, to name maybe my top three. but also guys like Khalil Shakir, and just I wonder if we're going to get any more insight. I guess the part that they're probably not going to show is the thing I'm most interested in is people's process and how certain things happen, but there may be some bits there about the different structure and how things there are gone about throughout the camp. So it'll be cool to see. It'll be cool to see if if we get over to camp, if we can make an appearance on there somehow, and then maybe it's just the background extras even. So that would be kind of a fun thing to check out. And I'm excited, just to see football players back on a football field here. Dion mentioned that the fans would probably like in his press conference earlier this week that the fans would probably like football to happen 365 days a year. And that's really true. That's why these spring leagues can come up and maybe get some, I don't know if they're getting any TV ratings, or it doesn't look like there's a ton of fans in the stand at least, but maybe,
DC tomorrow, $100, all you can drink tickets.
There you go.
Looking into that.
So, but yeah, at least the spring league has made it through more than one season at least. So, football is definitely popular, and we would try to consume it all year if we could. It would definitely be great to have the NFL, but understanding the limitations of that and all that. So speaking of limitations, Joey Bosa limited now and has a calf injury here before anything really football related gets rolling. Just how frustrating is that for you guys we knew going in it was a roll of the dice to try to bring him in with his injury history, but did you think he was going to at least make it to the mandatory camp part of before he got a little injury here? Hopefully this is something again that can be dealt with and treated, and maybe he comes back at training camp full go and doesn't have to worry about anything or missing time in the preseason. But frustrating, I guess. You guys have any frustration really about this, or was it really just expected?
Well, hopefully he got his injury out of the way. Now he's good for the season. But Joey Bosa's a vet. He's not the kind of guy that really needs OTAs, and you can say, to gel with his new team. Yeah, but he's going to learn everything he needs to learn in the classroom, not necessarily on the field. They said he's going to be ready for training camp, and I think that timeline makes sense. With the pulled calf, they said keep him out as more precautionary than anything. So hopefully it's something minor. He's still able to do some stuff through it, but I hope it's not a sign of things to come. But at least with Joey Bosa, and I may be wrong with this, I haven't researched this as much as I should. It seems like his injuries are I don't want to say real injuries, but more than just soft tissue injuries. So he's not a guy that I think has a tendency of kind of nagging things like this. So hopefully it's just a fluke thing from training. He'll be back and he'll be healthy by camp. And then again, even if he misses a few games during the season, I don't really care. If he's healthy in January and hopefully February, that's when we don't need him in May.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, like Scott said, it's not ideal, but it's something that, when it comes down to it, you would rather have it happen now than in January and February and late December, when it's that crunch time of the season. And yeah, he's mostly right now, he knows the skill stuff. He knows how to treat his body over the offseason. He's been through it plenty of time. So mostly for him right now, it's learning that playbook, learning how he's going to fit into the defense here, what Sean McDermott wants from him when it comes to certain aspects of the defense. So as much as, you want him out there, it's better to, play it safe and let him get rested up and let him play and get through the injury, and hopefully then by training camp, even if he misses first week of training camp, have him be ready for into the season there. So hopefully it's nothing too crazy. I know that they didn't really say, obviously it's not ideal, but they didn't seem like it was something that they thought would go past the training camp at the latest. We'll see what happens. And it's at the end of the day, we all knew it was a risk reward signing, but it wasn't even that big of a risk at the end of the day, because if he does end up having injuries throughout the season, you have other guys that you brought in, you drafted other guys, you have Jamon Solomon coming back as well. So you have other younger options as well that can also step in and even learn from a guy like Joey Bosa, who has had a pretty solid career so far compared to most NFL players. So we'll see how it comes along, and hopefully he progresses well and can get healthy and stay healthy once it comes to the season.
Yeah, for sure. If you haven't done so yet, please like, and share this episode on Facebook. Please like and repost on X, and please go to the YouTube page and like it there as well. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on notifications so that you know when Built in Buffalo goes live. Appreciate that. Our people in the comments definitely helping us out. That was actually next on my outline to do. So great minds thinking alike there. We are sponsored by Monster Energy, the official energy partner of Built in Buffalo. Go out and show Monster some love if you're into the energy drink scene. Best flavors out there. And yeah, let's get on to the OTA talk here. Scott, you want to go into some of these things to start us off?
Sure. Yeah, so why don't we start with Dalton Kincaid, the Bills' first-round pick from 2023. I think a lot of people thought he was going to take a big step forward last season in 2024. Some of this could have been due to injury. I think he missed 4 games with the PCL and then definitely wasn't the same after that. The Bills wanted him to bulk up this past season, be more of a complete tight end, not just more of a big, slow slot receiver. So what are your guys' expectations for Kincaid this season? Ben, we'll start with you. And what have you seen so far from him? I know it's early, but what are you looking for from Kincaid in 2025?
Yeah, I know there was that, what was it, a couple of weeks ago, everybody saw that one picture of him and thought, oh, he doesn't look like he's any bigger. And now you're starting to see, well, maybe he did get a little bit bigger. But at the end of the day, I still think even if he didn't get a huge improvement on his size, I still think he can produce in a very good way in this offense. And I think part of it last year, I know, Scott, you've talked about it a couple times over the offseason, is he's also was missed a lot as well when it comes to just being open. Josh overthrew him or didn't see him or whatever it was. So I do think that as well as just Kincaid has to take a step, I do think they need to make a conceited effort to get him more involved as well, because he does have the skill. I mean, you saw it coming out of college and you've seen in flashes of it in the pros, and obviously it hasn't been as consistent as you would have liked. But I do think, Joe Brady needs to just drop more plays for him, make sure he's getting him open. I mean, you have so many guys that you can do things with now. When you have Palmer, when you have Shakir, you have Kincaid, Cook out of the backfield. You have a million playmakers on this offense. And Kincaid's a guy that I think, especially for a tight end, can be a sneaky under the radar guy this year, where teams may overlook him at times because he hasn't had that one spectacular season yet. But even his rookie year was pretty solid for a rookie. I mean, I know people expect for rookies to put up 1,000 yards, but for tight ends, that's just not something that happens. That's for rookie tight end. So he had a solid rookie
Except for
season.
last year.
And yeah, except for last year when Brock Bowers had one of the greatest, if not the greatest, tight end rookie season ever. But yeah, Kincaid had a good rookie year. Obviously, yeah, this past year was kind of a down year, but I think, he also battled through some things when it came to just injuries. And also, yeah, we see that I believe he had 44 catches on 75 targets. To me, that yes, Kincaid probably could have done a little bit better, but that's not all on Kincaid. He was definitely missed a lot. You don't just miss almost, 30 targets just by him. And, it didn't seem like he was that bad last year. So yeah, I think he'll take a step this year. I think he'll be more into the offense. Joe Brady should probably make a more conceited effort to get him involved, and we'll see. But I'm excited to see him because I do think that he can be a very, very important piece to this offense.
Yeah, I think Kincaid led the league in uncatchable balls potentially. Last year,
he was definitely up there.
Yeah, definitely near the top. So definitely there. Part of me wonders if the consistency issue is more of the design of the offense being such that it's so whomever can match up well week to week. And if you just don't have a good week, then your consistency takes a dip there because of the everybody eats mantra and that whole thing and the commitment to the run game. I just don't know that any one receiver, unless we have like a bona fide number one like Diggs was, where he was kind of force fed the ball, just not sure that one guy is going to be that consistent go-to guy. Now, Kincaid could be. I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm just not sure they're going to ask him to. But I mean, the hope would be a 5 to 7 target per game clip, I think, for him this season. I think that's kind of at least my hope for him to if he can maintain that sort of consistent level of getting targeted 5 to 7 times a game, it would be prudent for the Bills. I think he's a good enough matchup. I think he's going to step up. I think he's capable of doing it. So, expect him to try to, have that third year leap that tight ends tend to have sometimes when things click. And hopefully, over the offseason here, he's gotten his body in a good enough shape to endure some of these things that have popped up in the last few years.
Yeah, I think that kind of the only real direction for Kincaid to go is up for based on last season. With a lot of the things you guys said, I think it was like 30% of his targets were uncatchable or something crazy like that. So that number is going to be better. Even the play he hurt his knee on, he was wide open. Josh just missed him and overthrew him, which led him to lunge out and then land directly on his knee and mess up his PCL. So yeah, hopefully they get a little bit more comfortable with each other. Who knows? It could have been timing. Maybe he was running his routes at the wrong depth. We don't know exactly what it was. So yeah, you clean up a couple of those, you hit on a couple of those, and all of a sudden he goes from having like a 480-yard season to having a 600-yard season, even though he missed some games. So and that's a big difference. So yeah, I think he's definitely going to be a focal point of the offense. And, specifically in Joe Brady's offense, I think it's an opportunity for tight ends to really eat, because a lot of this, it's not as much down the field. It's a lot of stuff in the middle. It's a lot of quick hits. They love running those kind of like swing screens out to him, or he just runs like a flat out and Josh hits it to him. So he has a lot of opportunities when they try to give him the ball. Hopefully it's just, not as much at the line of scrimmage this year, and they kind of expand his route tree a little bit. Next guy, this guy going into his second year, so into the year that Dalton Kincaid just went through, Cole Bishop, our second-round pick last season out of Utah, by all accounts has come in and looked awesome in camp. And the Bills put a lot of faith in him. They showed that by not signing a safety in free agency. I've been bringing back DeMar Hamlin or Forrest, who's going to be more of a special teams guy. They're counting on Cole Bishop to be a starter and to contribute. He started some games last season, but that was kind of more out of injury necessity. He played well, but he definitely had some blown coverages, specifically the Nico Collins one in the Texans game where he just watched him run by him. He didn't have that as much in the end of the year. You can tell he was growing as the season went on, but sounds like he's communicating well. He's kind of being like the quarterback of the back half of the defense, which is awesome and something you want to see. So, Lance, what do you see? What do you want to see from Bishop this season, and how does he take that next step?
Yeah, I think, it's working that process, continuing to get the communication down, because that's the biggest part I was worried about when you have Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde secondary that was so vocal, and now you go to kind of new safeties, sorry, not secondary, safeties, and you go to a new safety pairing. Are they going to be able to be as vocal, or where is that communication going to be made up? And so that's an area where I think Cole Bishop's going to have to continue to build on his performance, obviously, in knowing his responsibilities and executing those is obviously first and foremost. But I think the biggest part that I want to see is at least understanding the communication out there that's being provided to him, and then participating in that communication with all of his teammates to make that defense cohesive, because that really is something I think this defense hangs its hat on, is being able to communicate and disguise things and being able to know where you're going to end up once the ball snapped.
Yeah, I mean, he was the guy that coming out of the college was a team captain, and that was part of the reason why you knew Sean McDermott definitely would have liked a guy like him who can be a leader. And rookies don't just come in right away and are a leader. And now you're starting to see in the second year here, like Scott said, he's starting to take that step here as a leader, even only in the second year. And that's something that you definitely know that these guys valued when it comes to the Bills. So I think that he will step into this role, and he might not be at that top tier level, but I think he can be a very, very solid starter for this team this year. He started playing a lot better, especially when you saw Micah Hyde starting to get closer to the Bills again. When he got re-signed and on the practice squad, you saw him start to take those steps. when that second half of the season, you really started even his play to take that major step as well. So, I mean, that's what you see with this team as well. You see these guys come in, and we're first year, especially on the defense, maybe they might not be the best, or they might not stand out the most, maybe for the exception of Christian Benford. But a lot of these guys, Terrell Bernard was a guy who in his second year took that next step. Even Rousseau took a little bit of a step his second year. You see these guys take their steps once they're in the system, they learn the system. And that's one thing that Sean McDermott definitely it needs to, I think, it needs to be acknowledged more when it comes to Sean McDermott, how he can develop these guys, not just whether it's his first year or their second year, whether it's a fifth year guy that comes in here and has kind of struggled into his career and turns his career into a Jordan Poyer-esque career, right? It's nice to see these guys develop, and I think Cole Bishop can become a very good all-around safety for this team, and he can be a leader of that defense there in the back end of the defense. So we'll see. I do think, though, that he'll obviously still have his one or two, couple lapses here and there on the season. It just happens with young guys, but I do think he'll be much more consistent, and I think he'll be a guy in the secondary that you can look at the end of the year and say, wow, he really stepped up this year. And even though some Bills fans, including myself, I'm still a little bit nervous for him going into this year, can kind of take that nervousness away, just kind of like how Terrell Bernard did in his second season.
Yeah, I'm confident in Cole Bishop. I thought he played well down the stretch last season. McDermott's defense asks safeties to do a lot of things. Like you said, Ben, that can be overwhelming to a rookie, especially when he missed all of training camp last season. He had that shoulder injury. So he like Joey Bosa, probably doesn't need OTAs in training camp. When you're a rookie, you're just, drinking through a fire hose. You need all of the time and the reps that you can get. And he missed a lot of those. So having a full off season, hopefully, knock on wood, he stays healthy. He gets all the way through camp. He comes into the starter. I bet he has a lot more confidence going into the season. And I'm excited to see what he can do. He seems to fit the Bills mold for a safety. He's the guy they wanted last offseason in the draft at that safety position. And there's no reason to think he won't take that step and come in and be a starter, because, we mentioned McDermott asked the safeties to do a lot, but most of the safeties that have come through Buffalo have thrived. It's a position that him and especially Babbage coach up really well. So a full off season NFL program. He's more comfortable, not all the craziness to get drafted and coming into a new city. Hopefully he does take that step.
Hey, we did sign DeMar Hamlin, so we do have another safety in the house if we need to go that route if Bishop just isn't ready. So,
and we just drafted a guy that has the ability as well to play safety. I know, again, we just talked about rookies maybe taking time, but you have a guy that's versatile that if you need him a few snaps can go in there. Even Derek Forrest, when he was a full-time starter at one point and had a pretty solid year, and then Dan Quinn came in Washington and kind of moved him out of that spot and more into a special teams role. So we have another guy as well with Forrest that has starting experience and has played good football in the NFL before.
Hey, we always have Cam Lewis.
We do have Cam Lewis as well. And who knows? Maybe
next guy,
Micah Hyde or Jordan Poyer. That was a joke. I'm messing around
there. Also in the secondary, rookie Max Harrison. Haven't seen a ton of clips from him, matching guys up, actually playing against other humans. But hey, he looks really good on air. He's so fast, he makes fast people look not fast. Let me know in the comments what movie is that from, if anybody knows. He looks very fluid. The way, like, watching his DB drills, he doesn't look stiff. Some guys, like we said, like run fast at the combine in their underwear, but looking fast on the field is very different. He's one of those guys that all of his speed transfers over the field. His hips look fluid. So excited to see what he can do. Hopefully next week at the rest of OTAs, we can see some clips of him actually, guarding some guys, maybe get some one-on-ones going. The boys love one-on-ones, and we love watching them. So, Ben, what do you take away from what we've seen from Max Harrison so far?
I mean, one, I also just want to talk about with Max Harrison, just the competitive nature that you've already seen from him. And even a guy like Dorian Strong, they've already talked about it with both of them, how they love to compete. They're already kind of buddies there, but they're kind of going at each other saying, hey, maybe Max was the first round pick and Dorian Strong was the sixth, but they're both saying, hey, you know, we're both here now and we're both going to make our mark and we're both going to show what we got. So I'm excited to see how those two kind of match up going into the season and into training camp and those battles of who's going to have the upper hand on each rep in those one-on-ones, who's going to do better. But when it comes to Hairston specifically, man, yeah, that's the one thing when you, like you just said, with just the fluidness, it just looks almost effortless sometimes with how he moves, because it's just, it's so natural for him when it comes to the speed and it comes to going to moving the hips and going one side one way to the other and kind of breaking open and going. It looks all natural, and that's definitely a reason that you saw when the Bills saw in him and they said, hey, we kind of were lacking that natural speed for a while at corner, and let's get a guy that can come in here and really just be a guy that we don't have to worry about that, and we can coach everything else up. We can fix everything else that maybe he does struggle with. So I'm really excited to see him. It's nice to see, you know, I still don't know the number 31 for him, by the way. That's the one thing I will say. Not a fan of it. But when it comes to him, yeah, it's fun to see these videos and just see a guy who it looks like he was almost like, I don't want to say born to play the position, but it's just like, it looks so natural for him to be out there and just the way that he moves on the football field.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that he is moving so fluidly and that he looks good in shorts, but I'm, just waiting to see some real action from him, because that's really what's going to be the telltale. And good point here that Tre is going to show leadership with him. I think this is really going to be good for Max to be in this environment. We've got the coaching staff, we've got the players around him to make him successful, and he should look good now, and we'll see what he looks like in training camp once the pads come on, and then preseason games and so forth. So I really am excited to see that he's getting off to a good start, but we're a long way away from playing football here, and I really am excited to see what he's going to bring on the field on Sundays.
Yeah. So we're going to go right into then another guy that's going into his second year. We talked about Bishop going into his second year. Now we got Keon Coleman, and Sean McDermott flat out came out and said when he came back, you can tell how hard he's been working, which, I mean, when you hear that for a second year guy, that's a huge sign of, hey, this guy really, he wants to be a star in this league. Obviously, Coleman had an up and down rookie year. He had some plays where you said, oh, that's why they drafted him. But then you had some other games where you're like, oh, I kind of wish he would have stepped up more. But it's a rookie going in the NFL. That's a big jump. Some of these guys do take a year or two. But you still saw those flashes that, hey, this guy could be dangerous in the league if he can just fix up a few small things. And he could really be a weapon for Josh Allen here. And Josh Allen, even during the season, you kind of saw, hey, he was trusting him, throwing the ball up to him, whether it's against the Seahawks when he just threw it up twice in a row to him, or down the field, you just see him chucking it up there. He has that trust, and it's only going to grow. So what do you guys make of Keon Coleman seeming to kind of come in and on a high note here, Scott? What do you think?
Yeah, McDermott and Bean kind of called him out in their postseason press conferences, saying he wasn't the same player after his injury, and basically said, like, we need more from you. And it looks like he put in the work in the offseason. By all accounts, looks like he was on the Body by Ben Shoop weightlifting program. Looks like he put on some pounds. His arms look bigger, which is going to be good because he's a physical kind of receiver. Seems like he's coming in and out of his breaks better. I know he trains with, doesn't he have a cousin? Isn't he cousins with CeeDee Lamb? And he trains with the same guy down in Texas or wherever they go. It's probably warmer than Buffalo in the winter, but
he's
been putting in the work.
Sure.
Yeah, there you go. Look at that. Yeah, you can tell he put in the work, and that's good because he needed to. The Bills, for all intensive purposes, used their first round pick on him last season. I know it was in the second round, but he was their first choice. First pick of the second round, so it's basically a first rounder, and you expect a lot from him. And again, kind of what we talked about Cole Bishop, they didn't bring in a big star number one receiver this season. They brought in Josh Palmer and let some other guys go, so they're expecting him to take a big step forward, and they can expect that he has to put in the work to get there. And obviously nothing's happened on the field yet, but it looks like he did his job in the offseason to get himself ready.
Yeah, I'm excited for the kid. I mean, obviously, that personality kind of came in and took Buffalo by storm, and now we're hoping that his play on the field can match that level of impact on the team, let's say. But again, these things are all good to see, but we're going to need to see it come to fruition when the pads come on and when the games matter.
Yeah, I mean, Coleman, it's going to be fun to watch this season. Definitely a guy that I think a lot of fans will be eyeing in, especially when it does get to training camp. Another guy that we talked about a little bit, and, we brought up a comment about his leadership kind of coming into play when Tre White, but his play will also be something to watch when it comes to this season, because he could be that third corner. I mean, who knows? Somebody ends up jumping him in that third corner. Maybe he even starts the season if they want to go that direction and have Maxwell Hairston, kind of ease into his NFL career. Who knows? So Tre White back in Buffalo. It's nice to see him back in Buffalo. I think a lot of fans love him here. Obviously, a great personality, guy who was an all-pro level football player when he was here before the injuries. Struggled a little bit last year with LA, had a little bit of a better ending to the season in Baltimore. Did get beat a couple times. I think it was Alex Brasky. Shout out Alex Brasky. He talked about how Tre kind of got beat once or twice in camp. But you also have, you're playing against Josh Allen. You're going to get beat sometimes. He's going to make some great throws. But what are your kind of expectations for Tre White this season? And do you think he can be a serviceable cornerback number 2, 3 kind of guy? We'll start with you, Lance.
I think you want him, you kind of hope and want him to be. I'm just not sure that that's really going to be his role moving forward. I love him being here during the offseason to work with Hairston and that sort of thing. We'll see. I just don't know enough about his physical health right now, and the way, you would think that he's at his peak of health right now at this point in the offseason, but his limitations due to those injuries are just haven't looked great in game action really thus far, and we'll see where it takes him. Not really a good look to, but again, in shorts, defense is pretty hard when you really can't be too super physical and there's no pads on, I think. So, if he was just not in the right spots and things, then that's one thing, but getting beat while playing in shorts, I'm not really worried about that.
Yeah, and I don't think the Bills brought Tre White. I hope they didn't bring Tre White in thinking here, cornerback position solved. Like, here's our CB2. Obviously, they drafted Max Hairston in the first round. So the hope is that he is the starter. And Tre White's here. I mean, you don't want to say he's like director of morale, but he's here because he's a vet and he knows the scheme. And he's better than anybody else they would have brought in or drafted later. Hopefully he doesn't have to play that much. Like, honestly, I kind of see Tre White as a game day inactive. Hopefully, if everything goes to plan, because he doesn't play special teams. And they'll put someone out there like Dane Jackson or, Dorian Strong or someone else like that who maybe will play special teams. Hopefully Max Harrison is the starting QB, CB2 next to Christian Benford, and we don't have to think about that position again for the next 4 years. So, yeah, I'm not necessarily worried that Tre is getting beat in camp. Like you said, Lance, it's early and they're wearing pads and it's going against your teammates and they're not really going all out. Like, if you're Tre White also, you're probably only going about 80% yourself. Like, you're taking the mental reps, but it's not worth it for you to go 100% in May. Like, what are you gaining from that? So, yeah, is it great he's getting beat? No, but the Bills have a plan at corner. He's making the roster for sure, but I think if everything goes to plan, he's probably the inactive corner on game day.
Yeah, and I think it's more important to look at what he did towards the end of the season here. Like John said, he started kind of being he wasn't the prime Tre White that we saw, but you started to see those signs of like, okay, he's still got a little bit left in tank here. Maybe he's got a few years that he can kind of resurrect his career a little bit in Buffalo again. But yeah, it'll be more important once you get to training camp, once the pad gets on, once you start seeing those live reps against everybody. So yeah, we'll see how Tre does. I think everybody in Buffalo is hoping that he can become that, because everybody in Buffalo really, really is. I mean, even when he was gone, I know it was a sadder day in Buffalo Bills recent history when it comes to sad players. When it comes to players leaving, people were definitely very upset about it.
Yeah, we're definitely rooting for Tre. That's something we're always going to do, I think, just with his connection to this town. And he was kind of that first draft pick, and 2017 that kind of started that franchise turnaround, and it's just he does hold that special place with Bills fans. So, if he can be effective, I'm all for it. If he's really good, then he's great to have there, not only on the field but on the sidelines as well on game day. So if he can handle that and it's not a liability on the field, then I'm all for it. But I'm just not sure that that's really where he's at in his career right now.
Yeah. Last thing we got here, which I'm actually going to turn into kind of a two-part question here to end it here. We saw Josh Allen. Brasky also talked about how Josh hit some deep balls. One of them was to Elijah Moore, who's obviously a new addition to the receiving room. So first part is, what are your expectations kind of for Elijah Moore going into the season? And who are you more excited for, Elijah Moore or Josh Palmer? We'll start with you, Lance. You can answer either one first, but what do you think?
Josh Palmer. I'm excited for Josh Palmer. I think he's going to be really good in this offense. I have zero expectations from Elijah Moore. Good thing to bring him in, but I just don't know that he's going to be overly effective, or there's going to be a battle there to make the roster that he's got to take part in. And if he's really good, then this receiving core is going to be really good. So I'll eat that if I have to. I'm not sure how much Elijah Moore is going to do here. I'm not expecting him to do really anything. And then if he does pop off and he can really make some plays here for the Bills, then I'll be all for it. But I really am excited about Josh Palmer. I think he was brought in for more of a certain role on this offense, and I think he's going to have more expectations on him to perform than someone like Elijah Moore will.
You guys probably didn't know this, but you guys are teammates in high school.
I heard that yesterday.
Yeah, I was going to say it hasn't been posted everywhere. It's the Bills version of that. Sam Bradford and Clayton Kershaw went to the same high school, because that's all anybody talks about there too. I'm actually more excited for Elijah Moore, I would say. Josh Palmer, I'm excited for him too. I think his skill set is exactly what the Bills need, in that he separates, he can win routes downfield, and that's great. And I feel like you kind of know what he is. You know what he's going to bring. But Elijah Moore, he was a stud at Ole Miss. He was highly drafted by the Jets, and it's not his fault he got drafted by a dumpster fire of an organization, but he was. And he hasn't had a consistent quarterback throwing him the ball for his first 4 years. It sounds like he found Jesus, having Josh Allen throw him the ball in training camp. You listen to his interview, to throwing the ball on air. So I'm excited. You don't really know how high his ceiling can be. If he gets back to what he was at Ole Miss and what people thought he was when they drafted him, I think he was picked in the 30s. So right around where Keon Coleman was picked just 4 years ago. And he still has all the skills. You can see it when he's running the route. So I think his ceiling is a lot higher potentially, but his floor is also a lot lower. Maybe it's one of those, if it keeps happening, maybe you're the problem, but based on the quarterbacks he's had, I don't think that that's the case. So I'm excited to see what he can do, because also he just signed a 1-year deal. He hasn't put a ton out there that's been great as far as getting a big contract next. If he comes here and he balls out, some team, maybe the Bills, but probably not, but based where we're at the cap, is going to maybe give him $8, $9, $10 million a season if he comes here and balls out, just based on what you thought he could be, but he hasn't been so far. So I'm excited to see what he can do here with Josh Allen in a real system, and with some functionality. It's not as dysfunctional. So yeah, I'm gonna go Elijah Moore.
How much opportunity do you think he's gonna get here, though, in this offense with everyone else that they have?
I think we'll also.
I think that is up to him.
Yeah, I think it'll heavily also depend on how Curtis Samuel looks too. Because if Curtis Samuel comes out and he looks good and he looks like the guy that they were talking about before the season last year, and that he can be that guy, it might be a little tougher for Elijah Moore to get on the football field. Unless, again, you have Coleman, who also is looking like he might come in and take that next step. And Josh Palmer, which, like Scott said, what you're kind of getting from him. I really go back and forth with Moore and Palmer, who I'm more excited about, because Palmer, like Scott said, yeah, you kind of know what you're getting from him. He's coming from a system that is kind of similar to the Bills, where you see a lot of multi-tight end sets. You see a lot. You know how they're going to pretty much use him, probably in the similar way. I mean, Herbert, when it comes to maybe arm talent, is also another guy that has a stronger arm than most quarterbacks in the league, and just how the offense maybe have worked in LA this past year. So you kind of might know, like Scott said, how he's going to be used. But at the same time, they signed him to that deal that kind of tells you, oh, they want him to be a bigger part of this offense. So that kind of puts me in like, oh, well, I am more excited for Palmer. But then at the same time, like Scott said, you have Elijah Moore over here, who was a stud coming out, went to 2 dumpster fire organizations, has never had a quarterback that has probably been even a top 15 quarterback in the league, maybe even not even a top
outside
20
of Jameis. I take it back about Jameis.
Outside of Jameis. But like, you've had a guy that hasn't really played with a quarterback that's been even a good quarterback. You may have a little bit of an above average quarterback, but you don't have a good quarterback that has ever been throwing him the football, and even on a team that has been a team like the Bills here. So it's back and forth for me. I'm really excited for them both. And then even a guy that I mentioned, Curtis Samuel, I'm even excited to see how he comes in. So, I mean, this whole receiving room, you're going to see, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes in camp and who kind of stands out, how they're going to use all of them. I do think it's not going to be one person standing out over the other besides maybe Khalil Shakir, obviously, because we know we're getting out of Shakir, reliable guy. They just signed the extension. But those 3 guys of Moore, Curtis Samuel, and Josh Palmer, I think, are going to be guys that could end up in that similar range when it comes to yardage, receptions, even touchdowns. Maybe Palmer a little bit higher than the Samuel and Moore, but I think they'll still kind of all be in that similar range of, maybe 300 to 600 yards. One of them is going to end up 300, one's going to end up 400, one's going to end up maybe 500 or 600. So I think it will end up being a guy where there's not going to be one guy that really makes his mark over the other 2. So I'm interested to see kind of who stands out there.
Yeah, I think the usage part, that's my whole reason for low expectations on Moore. I think the Bills' offensive philosophy, the way it's been, the commitment to the running game, like I said, I just don't know. I don't trust that they're going to use him in a way that makes him break out just because, 100% may have the talent, 100% has a better quarterback than he's ever had now, but are they actually going to give him those opportunities, and is he going to be used in those situations where he can really make a big impact? I'm not convinced that he is.
And that's kind of what makes me more excited about him than Josh Palmer. They're going to give Josh Palmer opportunities. They paid him money, and say what you want, best players play. The guy who makes the most money play a lot. Like, look at Von Miller the past 2 seasons. He was better this year than the year before. We ran him out there all the time because they were giving him $97 million or whatever crazy it was. So, like, the fact that there are no expectations and he's coming in here honestly just trying to make the team, I'm sure in his eyes, the ceiling is higher just because he's not guaranteed anything, and I think he knows that. So I'm excited to see what he can do because he's a guy who's a stud, was a stud in college and has shown flashes in the NFL, even last season with Jameis and definitely with Flacco 2 years ago at the end. He played really well then. So kind of guy, if he gets an opportunity and he gets into an offense that fits his skill set where he's, not the only guy, or he has a quarterback who can reach him, or he has a good coach, or he has a good alliance with a quarterback has time. I think he's someone who can thrive. And yeah, he might not do anything, but I don't know. Surprises are fun and exciting, and that's why I picked him.
Yeah, we talked about Hard Knocks a lot earlier. I think that's going to be that might be a focal point of Hard Knocks is what's the receiving room going to look like, and how these new additions, and even a guy like Curtis Samuel who kind of had that slow start to the season with the injury, how he comes into his second season, Keon Coleman. So you have guys that are in their first or second year in the system outside of Khalil Shakir in that top 5. I think that could be in the Hard Knocks one of those bigger topics of who's Josh Allen looking for, who's Joe Brady scheming open more, and who's going to take that step there. So the wide receiver room is last year was kind of we don't know what we're going to get. This year, it's just like, we still don't know what we're going to get necessarily, but it's that excitement that's kind of back from that receiving room that you're like, okay, now we got multiple guys to be excited for. Last year was really just like, oh, we were excited for Curtis Samuel coming in, and it was like, nobody was really excited for Mac Hollins. I mean, especially early in the year, definitely nobody was excited for Mac Hollins. So this year you have multiple guys who I think you can be excited for.
Yeah, second part of that statement that you made was Josh Allen hitting some deep throws, and also to Elijah Moore there. I think you said that at the beginning. If not, it's in our outline, so I'm rolling with it. And so I'm excited to see that, man. Josh wasn't terrible, but he definitely had left some out there and had some misses. So it's good to see it early. It doesn't really matter at this point. Again, I'm sorry to keep saying that. Just, it's nice to see, but let's see it when the games count. But does it excite you guys to see at least it's happening early? Hopefully it's early and often from here on out.
Yeah, I'm not sure we'll see it necessarily often because I do think that they'll still stray away from it. And at the end of the day,
him being successful on it often is what I meant. Not that they're going to do it often.
I'm hoping because the past few years he's kind of he's missed it. He's been he's not been one of the worst, but he's been kind of middle of the pack there towards that 15 to 20 range in the quarterback when it comes to quarterbacking, when it comes to the deep ball accuracy and missed throws there, which you saw, early on in his career, it seemed like that was the only throw he could make was a deep ball early on. And now it's kind of swapped where it's like, well, the deep ball is the one that you're kind of like, a lot of times you're like, oh, if you could have just let up a little bit, or if you could have just not underthrown it. And it's been a hilly ride for him and his deep balls there. So I'm excited to see if he can kind of hone it in this year with more deep targets when it comes to Josh Palmer, and even like Elijah Moore, if maybe they can kind of open it up for him. Because you saw him hit Matt Collins a couple times last year deep. Obviously, when Gabe Davis was here, he was really the deep ball guy. He digs every once in a while, but really since John Brown was here, he wasn't consistently hitting somebody deep. And I think you can see that now maybe with a guy like Josh Palmer, maybe hitting him deep more consistently.
Every time Josh Allen throws the ball, I get excited.
Yeah, he had a 31.8 completion percentage on throws, 20 plus air yards, and 69.6 rating with that. So just, last year left a little bit to be desired. 66 attempts, 21 completions. So did score 2 touchdowns and had 2 interceptions on what are most likely arm punts, but 690 yards for what it's worth, according to Next Gen Stats, on deep balls, 20 plus yards of air. So definitely, supports what you're saying, Ben. Not as far as yardage goes, he was 9th, but if you look at rating wise, near the bottom, 29th.
I was even off there. Yeah. I put him higher. I had 15 to 20, but yeah, not good.
Yeah, you can remember a few that he just missed. Like the one to MVS in week 1, he had him on the post, just missed him. The one to Kincaid, where he hurt his knee, had him wide open, just missed him. A few to Matt Collins in that Texans game, just missed him. So yeah, maybe with these receivers, a little bit more deep threats in Josh Palmer, Elijah Moore. I know Curtis Samuel's not necessarily a go ball receiver, but he is fast, so they could potentially use him at that. They'll have some more downfield threats, so they can get the timing a little bit better. But yeah, it's obviously encouraging to see he's connecting throws at any point. But like you said, Lance, it doesn't matter yet. He should be connecting on deep balls in OTAs because they're most of the time on air and no one's really rushing him. So he has as much time as he wants to throw it. And if they get home, they just run past him and let him finish the play. That's what I always told my O-line coach. I didn't give up any sacks in practice. That was because you don't sack the quarterback in practice.
Hey, I was trying to be a scout team hero in high school. So
yeah,
I was
always
always
the guy
going
I
after
hated.
him. Yeah.
I was the one, if the play was going this way, I'm going to the scout team line and I'm like, we're taking this play off. And if you make me look bad, next play I'm putting you in the dirt.
Yep. Yeah, the coaches quickly ran the fullback at me the next play and made me understand my role. So with that, that's what we have for you today for the OTAs beginning here in Buffalo. We thank everyone for watching. Again, please like and share this episode. We are sponsored by Monster Energy Drink, the official energy partner of Built in Buffalo. And until next week, go Bills.
Go Bills.